I'm going to call the Springfield City Council regular session to order with a roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon,
Here.
Councilor Weber,
Here.
Councilor Mo,
Here.
Councilor Rodley,
Here.
Councilor Blackwell,
Here.
Councilor Doyle,
Here.
and Councilor Pictionary.
Councilor Pictionary is excused for the evening. There. We got the order different this time around. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. There is one time designated for public testimony this evening under business from the audience. Actually, there are two times for it's our first time back, so we'll for the fall. There are two times for public testimony. One is under business from the audience and one is under public hearings. If you're attending in person, please complete the request to speak card located at the city recorder's desk in the council chambers and turn it into the city recorder. If you're joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak to either of those times, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. The order of public testimony is as follows. Anyone in person in the council chambers, and then anyone who has raised their hand. First item, please.
First item is the consent calendar.
I would like to move approval of the consent calendar for September 3rd, 2024. Second.
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Councilor Weber,
Yes.
Councilor Mo,
Yes.
Councilor Rodley,
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell,
Yes.
Councilor Doyle,
Aye.
and Councilor Pictionary.
Motion passes 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent. Next item, please.
You have 4 public hearings this evening. Public hearing number 1 is a request for Springfield Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment and Zone Change for 26.73 acres of property located at 5230 High Banks Road. Excuse me. This is ordinance number 1, ordinance amending the Springfield Comprehensive Plan Map by designating approximately 25.14 acres of land from sand and gravel to light medium industrial, redesignating approximately 1.59 acres of land from low density residential to light medium industrial, amending the Springfield zoning map by rezoning the same 25.14 acres of land from quarry and mining operations to light medium industrial, amending the Springfield zoning map by rezoning the same 1.59 acres of land from R1 residential to light medium industrial, adopting a severability clause and providing an effective date. This is a first reading only and no action is required. Andy Limbert is here for this item.
All right, we're going to go to Mary Bridget first.
Thank you, Mayor. Before Andy does the staff report, I just want to handle one procedural matter. So the hearing tonight is characterized as a quasi judicial hearing. That means that the applicant and public are entitled to certain rights and processes, and that includes the right to notice, present evidence, and to have a written decision based on standards. It also includes an impartial decision maker. This matter was already heard by the Planning Commission, who conducted a public hearing. The packet includes their recommendation. Oregon land use law also requires that the City Council act as an impartial decision maker, and councilors must disclose any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest related to this matter. A conflict of interest would occur when the decision maker or their family or their business would benefit or suffer by their decision. An ex parte contact is a communication to the decision maker that includes substantive issues regarding the application, but it occurs outside the public venue. And bias is an actual personal interest in the outcome of the decision or a prejudgment. And I would just ask now, Mayor, that you and the council, or that you query the council about if they have any ex parte contacts that they need to declare before the hearing gets going.
All right, thank you, Mary Bridget. We'll start down with Michelle to declare any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest.
No ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest.
No ex parte. No ex parte contacts or conflict of interest.
I've got no ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest.
No tag conflict of interest. I have none either. Thank you.
All right, Andy?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Welcome back. In your absence, staff has been busy, so we've got some items for you tonight. This is an interesting application. This site is located north of High Banks Road off of 52nd Street extension to the north. And you can see a context in the site there. This property is located between the former Blue Water Boat site, which is now occupied by Attune Foods to the north, and to the south by a business park. There's also a fairly recent development, which is the Latter-day Saints Bishop Storehouse, which is located off High Banks Road. So the flavor and the nature of development in this site, in this area, is industrial in nature. And there is a residual piece of residentially zoned and designated land that is sandwiched between this site and that of the Latter-day Saints property that is proposed for redesignation with this application. This site was formerly a gravel quarry, sand gravel quarry. The resource is depleted, and the applicant is now looking to reuse the site with a different type of activity. In this case, they're proposing to redesignate and rezone the property to light medium industrial, which is consistent with adjoining properties to the north and south. And it offers the opportunity for some type of a use on the site, such as outdoor storage. The applicant is reclaiming the property from its former mined gravel status under a state permit, and that is included with your packet this evening. The application was reviewed by the Fair Housing Council of Oregon, and actually they had provided a letter in support of this, recognizing that the orphaned piece of residential property was not a desirable location for residential. It actually would probably be detrimental to residential development, being isolated, far from services, and due to the industrial nature of the environment in its vicinity. So you have an application and a supporting letter from the Fair Housing Council of Oregon with the packet this evening. The proposal was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and they unanimously adopted a recommendation of support, also in your packet. The applicant's representative is here this evening, and will be making a brief presentation as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. There was no public comment related to this aside from the letter from the Fair Housing Council. So no other written comments were provided either in support or against this proposal.
All right, are there any questions? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And I have one card for this public hearing, which is Zach Galloway for the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. I am Zach Galloway, as you said, with TBG Architects and Planners. We're representing the applicant Sean Highland on this application. We are kind of at the midpoint of a long process going through the land use application process. We were before you seeking annexation approval in January of this year. This is our next step, and we're looking forward to moving into a site plan review with staff once this step wraps up. So I'm available for questions and concur with everything Andy described and said. We're happy to receive the recommended approval from Planning Commission. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I'm looking around for any questions for the applicant. All right, I think we're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Good.
I don't have any other cards for this item in the room. Neil, do you have any hands up?
There's a hand up. I would like to check. Curtis, if you can hear us, you can unmute your microphone if you're here for this item.
Can you hear us, Curtis? Curtis?
Okay, we believe Curtis is here for business from the audience, so
Okay.
we can come back to him.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. This is the first reading, no action requested. Next item, please.
Mayor, before you go on to the next item, since this is a plan amendment, could you also make a point to close the record as well?
I'm going to close the public hearing and close the record. Next item, please.
Yes, Mayor, the next item is public hearing number 2. That's annexation of territory to the city of Springfield. Annex approximately 4.71 acres of vacant residential property located at the southeast corner of 19th Street and Hayden Bridge Road. That's map 17-03-24-42, tax lot 5202, and concurrently annex approximately 70-foot wide by 294-foot long segment of undeveloped Hayden Bridge Road public right of way. Again, this is ordinance number 2, an ordinance annexing certain territory, unaddressed property at the southeast corner of 19th Street and Hayden Bridge Road, and identified as assessor's map 17-03-24-42, tax lot 5202, and approximately 70-foot wide by 294-foot long segment of Hayden Bridge Road right of way to the city of Springfield and Willamette Lane Park and Recreation District, withdrawing the same territory from the Rainbow Water District, adopting the severability clause, and providing an effective date. Again, this is a first reading and no action is required. Andy Limbert is here for this item.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm just going to provide a map of orientation. This is in the Hayden Bridge neighborhood, far northern portion of that neighborhood at the intersection of 19th Street, which is a largely undeveloped public right of way. It serves as essentially a gravel lane and a stub of Hayden Bridge Road. This property is currently a Filbert Orchard. And the applicant is proposing to annex the property in order to derive sewer service. There is sewer service in 19th Street, and because of its proximity to the property boundary, any development on the site, which is in this case residential dwelling, is required to connect to sanitary sewer under Oregon law. Therefore, the applicant is proposing to annex the entire property. They are looking to construct a single detached dwelling in the extreme northeast corner of the property, which would derive access from extension of a driveway off of Hayden Bridge Road, the stub of Hayden Bridge Road. So that is the purpose of the annexation. There is no land division proposed at this time, and therefore the property frontages on 19th Street and Hayden Bridge Road will remain undeveloped for the time being. At such time as the property is divided, then there would be requirement for frontage improvements, and that's spelled out in an annexation agreement. You have a draft copy of it this evening in your packet. So there are trigger mechanisms for public improvements. However, a single detached dwelling on this legally created lot does not trigger such requirements. I did have one phone call asking about the nature of the annexation. Annexation being somewhat of a hot topic right now, and so staff was able to respond to the questions. We did not have any written comments either in favor or opposed to this annexation request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, then I'm going to go and open the public hearing. I do not have any cards for this item. Is there anybody that's got their hand up online, Neil?
No hands for this item.
I'm going to close the public hearing. This is first reading. Oh, wait. No, and all right, we had a last minute card, it looks like. Just 1 second. All right, come on up. And you're going to state your name and location in the city for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes to talk specifically to this. Sure.
Okay. Yay. Joyce Roman, ROEMEN, 2727 20th Street, Springfield. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
You're on.
All right. Well, we're in that neighborhood and we're on 20th. So our concern is if that is annexed right there at the Hayden Bridge stub, it's going to cause more traffic onto our street and possibly open up 19th behind eventually where the light, well, there isn't a light, but eventually, I don't know when, what year, what we're looking at, but that's our concern is traffic. And if there's going to be restrictions as far as other homes to be built back there, I mean, apartments, I don't know. And I guess maybe that's it.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, then I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. And Andy, you want to come back up for a second?
Sure. At this point, the proposal is for a single attached dwelling. Legally, under Oregon law, the property owner could develop up to 4 dwelling units on the property without dividing it. Those would be in form of potentially middle housing, which would be duplex, triplex, or fourplex. The same height limits would apply to those dwellings as what are currently applied to the R1 zoning district to the east on 20th Street. With a single attached dwelling, I guess technically you would expect there to be an incremental amount of traffic for one house and a couple vehicles potentially. At this point, there is no plan to extend Hayden Bridge Road through to connection with 19th Street and improve 19th Street as well. That would happen with intensification development on the property, likely through a subdivision, in which case there would be notice given to the neighborhood again as to some type of a land use action, which would be leading to more housing. So this annexation does not require neighbors to annex, and it does not lead to, I guess, a conspicuous amount of traffic on the street beyond what the neighborhood already generates with one house proposed. Victoria.
I think I also understand that with middle housing, they don't necessarily have to even put in driveways, right? So there doesn't have to be parking. So there may not be cars at all if there's a fourplex,
That's correct.
which seems like
yeah.
a lot of them are building that way, trying to limit traffic. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Andy. All right, so this was a first reading, no action required. Next item, please.
Next item is public hearing number 3. It's annexation of territory to the city of Springfield. Annex approximately 2.44 acres of industrial property in Glenwood located at 3331 Franklin Boulevard, map 17-03-34-33, tax lot 100. Andy Limbird returns again for this item.
We need to get you a frequent flyer punch card.
Appreciate
3
that.
public hearings, 4th one's free.
There we go. I'll take it. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an item that had been brought before you a couple of times and the hearing had been continued. So the public hearing is still open. The record is still open. The dust has settled on the discussions with the applicant and staff. The applicant's legal counsel and the city attorney's office agree that no annexation agreement is required at this time. Or for this application, the public services and transportation network is improved along the frontage. There is sewer service along the boundary of this property. And so there is no exactions or dedications that be required through an annexation agreement. If the site redevelops in the future, frontage improvements would be required along Franklin Boulevard, similar to what is occurred to the west, which is the hotel properties. Therefore, the applicant can proceed to annexation and then look at future site redevelopment that would potentially trigger other types of improvements. So that concludes the saga of this annexation, and staff is recommending that council consider adopting this ordinance to finish the annexation.
All right, are there any questions about this? All right, the public hearing is still open. I don't have any cards for this item. Neil, do you have anybody online?
No hands for this item.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I believe we can vote tonight on this.
I would like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance annexing certain territory, property addressed as 3331 Franklin Boulevard and identified as Assessor's Map 17-03-34-33, tax lot 100 to the city of Springfield and Willamette Lane Park and Recreation District, withdrawing the same territory from the Glenwood Water District, adopting a severability clause and providing an effective date.
Second.
Neil, could you call a vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Weber,
Yes.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Doyle,
Aye.
Counselor Pictionary.
Motion passes 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent. Next item, please.
And next item is your fourth public hearing. It's surplus land, designate city-owned land as surplus. Jeremy Shearer is here for this item.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Mayor and Council. I think this is the fourth time I've come to you on this matter. So I'll keep it very brief, but I will refer you to Exhibit B, page 6 of 6. It really illustrates what's happening here, which is essentially Hain Homes bought this flag lot and wants to connect their Woodland Ridges subdivision to Pinecrest. And in order to do that effectively, we needed to realign one of the streets. And so as part of this sales offer, an agreement, they will realign 54th Street so it has better connectivity. And then they also will connect Holly Street and Pinehurst Street as well. So that's what this offer and purchase sales agreement does. It holds them accountable to take part in what they're supposed to do. And all we really need to do at this point is we've already vacated the road. It's a limited interest that the city has on it. We have to divest ourselves into it so that they can take it and then realign the roads, or excuse me, the streets. We've already vacated it. So the next step would be to declare this as surplus land and directing the city manager to accept this offer from Hain Homes, and we enter into that. And then from that point on, we would execute instruments like a quitclaim deed to divest ourselves from that land. And that's pretty much all I have for you on that one.
All right, any
Do you have
questions? I don't see any questions. I think we still have to have a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. I don't have any cards for this item. Neil, do we have anybody online?
No hands for this item.
I close the public hearing.
I would like to move to adopt a resolution declaring certain real property owned by the city of Springfield surplus and directing the city manager to accept offer from Hayden Homes in exchange for street right-of-way.
Second.
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Weber,
Yes.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley.
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Doyle,
Aye.
and Counselor Pictionary.
Motion passes 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent. Next item, please.
Next item is business from the audience.
I have 1 card for business from the audience. This is Mary Sharon Moore. Come on up. Please state your name for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and city manager. I'm Mary Sharon Moore, and I live in Ward 4. I would like to address City Council on the urgent need for fireworks no zones. This past July 4th at 11 p.m., during intense explosions from fireworks in my neighborhood, I got out of bed, put on my jeans, shirt, and hiking boots, filled 2 water bottles, and placed my Go Now bags by the door. I was prepared to flee for my life. Given the pattern of hot, dry, high-wind summers, Springfield needs to stop playing with fire. Over Independence Day weekend, neighborhoods erupt with explosions from sources far more powerful than the permitted backyard fireworks. One thing I love about Springfield is its wooded buttes and densely forested hills. Mature conifers stand tall throughout our residential areas. We are Timber Town. So we need to stop playing with fire now before the great burn sweeps through. Another thing I love about Springfield is its distinctively Springfield way, the prudent, forward-thinking, action-oriented, low-cost way of doing things. Our people, our residential and commercial neighborhoods, our industrial districts, schools and public buildings, and forested hills are irreplaceable. Sooner or later, when wildfires sparked by fireworks rips through Springfield, taking action will be tragically too late. I ask that Springfield City Council, in partnership with fire, police, and other emergency services, develop a plan now, while we still have time, for fireworks no zones in our most vulnerable areas to hold our entire community safe. Neighboring Eugene may serve as a model. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards. Neil, do we have anybody online?
We have Curtis Blankenship, and Curtis, you should be able to unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Go ahead, Curtis.
All right. Yeah, my name is Curtis Blankenship. I live at 1286 32nd Street. I've paid taxes in Lane County since 1985. And I just want to say, I think we all agree, liberal or conservative, that allowing banks to just leave zombie properties undeveloped and commercial property that's left undeveloped is lowering all the property values and then lowering your the city tax revenue, and it amounts to a subsidy to the banks and these absentee landowners. So I'd like you to concentrate on getting these zombie properties rented out, or using them for the homeless, somehow getting a third party to run them for homeless, or tearing them down and at least temporarily using them for temporarily homeless shelters. But in addition to that, we have a lack of federal. I think we can all agree that we need more funding for the homeless, and that money needs to come from the federal government more so than the middle class taxpayer homeowner in Springfield. And so have you guys thought of getting with your mayor's councils and your city council groups and the governor's council and pressuring our state government to demand that federal dollars go to homeless programs, at least temporarily, and get off of the supply side, trickle down economics theory stuff, and go more with at least temporarily go with the Keynesian economics, just until business, I'm not advocating going socialist, changing Springfield in a socialist economy, just using Keynesian economics until to move business to the 20th century, and to adopt that's what Keynesian economics is for, is to adopt new technology. We're not using whale oil anymore, and move towards getting federal dollars to work with the homeless and help transform these zombie properties into homeless centers. And I know there's difficulty getting a third party to run these properties, but I've been talking to several homeless organizations, and they would be willing to run these zombie properties if asked. So, all right, so that's all I've got for you this week or this meeting. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other hands, Neil?
No other hands, Mayor.
Okay, is there any council response? Victoria?
So I wanted to just comment on the last speaker's comment about zombie properties, because I think it's important to note that those properties do belong to somebody. They're private property, and I'm trying to understand if the intent was to advocate for the government coming in and taking people's personal property because we don't like how it looks. And we don't like the way that it's being used. And I think that it's important to remember that we have some pretty specific laws around personal property rights. And so that's something to just kind of keep in mind, that these properties that are sitting empty are not just empty. They belong to someone. And so I think that if that's an idea that somebody's interested in, then it would be a good idea to talk to those private property owners and see what their intent is with those properties and see if they're interested in doing that. But unfortunately, at this point, I don't think with our system of government, we have the ability to just go in and take people's property and do with it what we will. So I just wanted to mention that. Thanks.
Anybody else? All right, next item, please.
Next item is any business from the city council.
I know we're just back, so, and some meetings are picking up. Go ahead, Corey.
I just wanted to mention that yesterday was Labor Day, and for the last several years, I go to the Central Labor Party, the AFL-CIO puts on a big barbecue out at Lively Park in Springfield, which is great. And I was there, and it was very well attended, and the weather was awesome, and there were no bees, which is rare. And just an opportunity to celebrate workers. And, Labor Day is, comes out of the labor movement and was brought to us by unions along with 8-hour workdays and all sorts of other wonderful things that we appreciate. So it was a great time. It was in Springfield, and I hope we will see more folks out there next year.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Next item, please.
Next item under business from the city manager is ratification of contract with American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, also known as AFSCME. James Hertz is here for this item.
You're unmuted.
When I stood up here, sorry, can you hear me now?
Hey, we can't hear you now.
Somebody switched it. I'm pretty sure it was buried. So anyways, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jim Hertz, the Director of HR here at the City of Springfield, and I am here seeking a thumbs up or thumbs down ratification vote for the city successor contract with AFSCME, which represents primarily our street crews, but also our security and custodial staff here at City Hall. This is a group that has previously had a contract that was pre the inflation. And so as you're looking at the components of this contract, the 3-year comp strategy was really one of getting to market in some meaningful way, recognizing that we didn't have the full budget to unilaterally move each individual to that. So there's an agreed upon way to move to a market-based wage strategy, and then how those individual employees would move into that particular pay range, followed by the unknown certainty of the future. So the parties agreed to a CPI in year 2 and year 3. That is a 2 to 4 CPI. CPI has been hovering in and around 3% now. So that's basically what we budgeted and anticipated. The contract also included a sizable amount of language changes that we were using to one, move away from our existing apprenticeship program, which has been a fabulous and amazing program, but has its challenges, primarily both in the administrative work, but also the administrative costs associated with maintaining the apprenticeship program. And then through the recent generational change with the baby boomers, that particular group has seen a sizable number of individuals who've retired out of that group, and has recognized the true challenges of being able to get talent into positions in a timely fashion. And so the parties have agreed to a similar plan that's yet to be developed. That's really an in-house training program that the labor union wanted, as well as management, and we feel is going to allow us to stay competitive. Our primary challenges that we try to tackle is both the recruitment and the retention. And as we all know, the trades has seen a sizable change in its economic pay for those particular positions. Your packet included the overall assumed cost that we anticipated. It had a little bit larger startup cost, but long-term, we think that falls within the overall 3-year strategy. So with that, I will pause and see if there's any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay. Corey, I think you're up.
I move that we authorize the city manager to ratify collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME.
Second?
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Weber,
Yes.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Doyle,
Aye.
Counselor Pictionary.
Motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent. Next item, please.
Any other business from the city manager?
No further business, thank you.
Next item is business from the city attorney. Item number 1 is the Springfield Election Information Voters Pamphlet for the 2024 general election. Mary Bridget Smith is here for this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here this evening to bring you a matter regarding elections, to specifically ask if you'd like to authorize a Springfield-specific voters pamphlet, either in electronic form or printed form, or both. This is in the Springfield Municipal Code. It would be for the upcoming general election. The items that are Springfield-specific on the election actually are this open sub positions. They are all uncontested, but there is a candidate for each of those open positions. One of the candidates does want to submit something for a voter's pamphlet, Ryan Thomas, and the rest of them do not. This process requires council approval. I don't know if you have any other questions. I'd be happy to answer them. We estimate it would take probably 8 to 10 hours of staff time to put together the pamphlet and post it online. And then you can also request that it be printed, and that could be left in places like the city manager's office or the library. I don't think it was intended to have a mailing go out or to have the expenses for a mailing to go citywide.
All right, Victoria.
So these are positions that are going to be in the Lane County
Correct.
guide. So the only thing we would be doing is subsidizing the sub
Correct.
positions. Okay, so I'm not in favor of that.
And they would qualify for the state guide as well.
I believe so.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right. I think, yeah, I'm comfortable canceling it this time around and then maybe finding a different time to have a broader conversation about our strategy here. Because this thing's probably 10 years old at this point. But no, I'm not.
I move to not approve the preparation of either a print or electronic voters pamphlet or both for the 2024 general election for the Springfield Utility Board positions.
Second?
Neil, could you call the vote, please?
Yes, Counselor Weber,
Yes.
Counselor Mo,
No.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Doyle,
Aye.
and Counselor Pictionary.
Counselor Mo, did you want to do something to your vote? Okay. Okay.
Like a double negative.
I was going to ask for a clarification too. So motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 nos, 1 absent.
Great, thank you. And I'll put a reminder in the calendar to come back to you at a time not by the election so we can take a look at this.
And Mary Bridget, any questions you get from sub candidates, you're just going to refer them back to either the county or the state, right?
You bet.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mary Bridget, any other items from the city attorney?
No other business. Thank you.
All right. We are wrapped. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.